This is Andy Gutierrez from StarWars.com, and you are listening to Coffee with Kenobi with Dan Z. This is the podcast you're looking for.
This is James Arnold Taylor, and you're listening to Coffee with Kenobi. I have a good feeling about this.
Hello, my friends, and welcome to Coffee with Kenobi, show number 356. We are your spoiler-free place for Star Wars discussion, analysis, and rhetoric. On today's show, we are going to take a look back and a look forward to Star Wars Celebration. It was supposed to be a new Star Wars Celebration next week, and obviously that isn't going to happen because of the pandemic and COVID-19. But we're going to make the most of that by celebrating and looking at the top 5 things we're going to miss the most from the upcoming Star Wars Celebration that has been postponed for 2 years until 2022. Now, this is not going to be a depressing one. It's going to be fun. The nostalgia, the memories we have, the things we love about Star Wars Celebration and this wonderful fandom is very much in play. You will love reminiscing with us. I can't wait to bring you along for the ride. So pull up a chair, grab your favorite coffee mug, and let's have some coffee with Kenobi.
So who talks first? You talk first? I talk first?
Joining me today for a cup of coffee are 2 familiar voices in the world of Coffee with Kenobi. First, we're going to bring in longtime contributor, and gosh, you haven't been on the show proper for a while, so it was time to bring back our CWK newsman, Mr. Tom Gross.
Oh, well, hello, everybody. It's so good to be here. I'm so excited to be back on the main show, Coffee with Kenobi, and I love the topic for tonight, so I can't wait to get started.
Yes, and all of your voicemails and letters and the flowers and the things you've been sending have finally persuaded me to let you back on the show, so well done.
Oh, good, so I can stop that train?
I didn't really need the flowers, but I just gave them to my wife until I went and bought them for her, so thanks.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, well, she's a lovely person. I'll keep the flowers coming.
Okay, good. Maybe. All right. Speaking of lovely people, we have, well, I guess technically it's your second appearance. Blake Weaver is a longtime friend of Coffee with Kenobi. We actually got to meet face-to-face at Star Wars Celebration Chicago, and I instantly was impressed with your enthusiasm and your personality, and I always love having you on Facebook Live every Monday night at 8 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time, so welcome to the show properly, Mr. Blake Weaver.
Tom, Dan, it is an absolute honor to be here on Coffee with Kenobi this week. I feel the force is very strong with us this week. This is going to be a great episode, I think.
It is going to be a great episode. I'm excited. And by the way, David Bodie just hit a 3-run homer for the Cubs, and they're beating the Cardinals. So it's like the force is with us.
Oh, my goodness.
Good things happen in threes. And yes, very good. All right, so let's do this. So this week, I guess it would have been made more sense to do the show next week, but I have an idea for next week too, so I think it's going to work out just fine. We're going to talk about Star Wars Celebration. Now, on a normal non-pandemic year, next week would have been Star Wars Celebration back in Anaheim. We'd be finalizing things. We'd be on our countdown to Celebration like we do before, but this year, obviously, there is no celebration. There's a number of great things that are going to be happening in the world of fandom. We've got Force Fest, which is an exclusive podcast I'll be doing with a lot of people from Skywalking Through Neverland and other things. We'll talk more about that later in the show. But I've asked Blake and Tom to help me come up with a top 5 list of things we're most going to miss about not having Star Wars Celebration this year. But this is not to make anybody sad. In fact, I'm not sad about there not being a Star Wars Celebration, and I'll talk about why. But this is something where we can kind of reminisce on what we love, or we're going to miss most about it, which to me, from my way of thinking, is only going to get us more excited about the next time Star Wars Celebration comes. And it's going to be a magical one. It really is. So let's go ahead and reminisce. And Blake, since this is your first time being on the regular show, why don't you start, and we're going to go backwards from 5 to 1. Give me your number 5 of things you're most going to miss about Star Wars Celebration this year.
All right. Well, my number 5 to 2 are no particular order. Number 1 is definitely the number 1 thing I'm going to miss the most this year. But number 5 for me is going to be attending the panels. Now, last year was actually the very first time I actually attended a Star Wars Celebration panel. My very first Star Wars Celebration panel was actually the Mandalorian panel, the greatest panel you could ever go to. It was incredible. And then I got into the second stage. I think it was, what was that second stage called, guys? Where they were doing the live stream into the secondary room. Do you remember that one?
Let's see. There was the hyperspace stage. Does that sound right?
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I got into that stage then for the episode 1 panel. And guys, I had an absolute blast being in both those rooms, even the room with the live stream. There's something about being in an arena with thousands of people just waiting for that moment. You're going to see the very first footage of something that no one in the world has seen yet. For me last year in Chicago, it was The Mandalorian. And what a lot of people don't realize too is, if you're watching just online, you get the main stage show. But when you're there in person, there's also a 2-hour pre-show. We had DJs there. We had the actor who plays Wicked. What's his name?
That would be Warwick Davis.
Yeah.
Warwick Davis. That's right. He had people coming up and was doing trivia with them and whatnot. It was an absolute blast. So that is something I was really looking forward to this year. Obviously, we had what I could assume would have been the Mandalorian Season 2 panel, the 40th anniversary for the Empire Strikes Back panel. I'm not sure what else they had not announced for what would have been this year. But that's something I'm really gonna miss, possibly have been able to do this year, was going to those panels and being there with thousands of my fellow Star Wars fans, just waiting to see those clips and the interviews with the actors and actresses of these upcoming projects.
That's great. What a great start. And I did look up the different stages, and there were a number of them that they had listed. And we had the Wintrust Arena was the celebration stage. That was the main one where everybody actually came out. We also had the Galaxy stage and the Twin Sun stage. There was a fan stage, and of course, the Star Wars Celebration podcast stage where Mr. Corey Clubb designed the logo for Lucasfilm, which was pretty cool too.
Yes, that was so cool.
Yeah. Great start, Blake. Great start.
Wow, that is a great start. And you know what I think is amazing is that didn't even make my top 5, but everything you were saying was, some of those were giving me real goosebumps. Like I didn't make it to any of the main, I didn't get the lottery for any main stage, for any of the big panels, but I was in, one of the side panel or side stages for the release of the Clone Wars trailer and the Clone Wars panel. And you're right, Blake, when you sit in a room, a space with thousands of people who are there for the exact same thing that you are, and every little thing that you're excited about, so are thousands of other people. And you just sort of become, you're like part of the wave of excitement and anticipation and joy. And it is those panels, man, that is amazing. Great. I love that one. So I chose my number 5 because it's kind of a painful one, but one with so much joy. And so Dan, you'll know this one really well too, whether it's one of your top 5 or not. Okay. It's the Sleepless Nights.
Oh,
the late nights in the hotel room, or that I would even throw in there. I'm famous for putting 2 into 1. Even I would put in there that late night of the podcast hangout, where we were there until, I felt like we closed the place down, but just those late nights of doing the last recording before we hit the sack, and you, me, and Corey just like slap happy silly. And what's so painful about it is that you have to get up the next morning in like 3 hours. But those were so wonderful. And I'm really going to miss that aspect of it this year. But boy, I can't wait in a couple years for those sleepless nights again.
You know how I said a few minutes ago that I wasn't really that sad about it because I could just be more excited. I've changed my mind after the 2 that you just mentioned. That is so great. I'm trying not to say anything because I don't want to take what I'm going to say on. But yeah, those are magical. Those are just absolutely magical moments.
Just so many great memories came from, I couldn't even tell you how many nights we were there, but it felt like a week's worth. And it was just, you can't replace those
3 nights.
And it wouldn't be the same if it weren't with the 2 of you and Corey.
Sure.
but it could be any Star Wars fans to share a room with and just have the laughs and recollect the day. And it was cool because there were a lot of times, Dan, where you were rubbing elbows with the big wigs, and Corey and I were having a ball out on the show floor, and we wouldn't really get a chance to just have a conversation until like midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning. And we just sort of ran. It was great because you could run through the day and reflect on all the great things, and so many inside jokes and just sort of ongoing jokes just continued to arise from all. So yeah, sleepless nights, definitely not my number 5.
It's hard to argue with that. That's great. That's so good. All right.
If it makes you feel better, Tom, it's been over a year and I'm still catching up on my sleep from that weekend. So you're not by yourself.
Well, we got to hang out with Blake more at this next celebration then.
Absolutely. I'll be ready.
I love it. All right. So my number 5 is so the history of Star Wars Celebration for me. The first one I went to was Star Wars Celebration 3 in Indianapolis. That was the first one that George Lucas had actually attended. And there was no podcast. There was, of course, the Force Cast was out there, but that was pretty much the main show in town. Almost the only show in town as far as I can remember. And I went with my friend Brian Romersberger, and we only went for one day. It was on a Saturday, and I'd never been to a celebration, and I loved it. And I remember being in lines and talking to different people and just kind of walking through the show floor and seeing everything and just being so in awe of this world, of this fandom, and wanting so desperately to be a part of that. And I made sort of a goal for myself there. The next time I come to Celebration, I want to have more of a voice in the community. I want to be more a part of this world. And instead of just being an observer, I want to be more an actual part of it. Well, the next one we went to was Star Wars Celebration Anaheim in 2015. It was the first time Coffee with Kenobi had been to a celebration. We'd been in existence for about 2 years then. And we were the first ever show to be on the Star Wars podcast stage. And that was amazing. That was so exciting. We were nervous. It was just after they showed the trailer for The Force Awakens where Harrison Ford says famously, "Chewie, we're home." Everyone went for Zerk. And it was great. So at that one, I made a goal for myself for the next celebration. And then the next celebration, I made a goal for the next one. Every time I make a goal for myself, they come true. Well, my goal for this celebration was to be a Star Wars author. And of course, as I've said often, the Star Wars book coming out October 20th, written by myself, Pablo Hidalgo, and Cole Horton, is an absolute dream come true for me. It's something I've wanted my entire life, to be able to write a Star Wars book. And then to think about, I can't give away too much, but basically DK had this incredible plan for promoting this book, which we're still going to do a bunch of different stuff, and I can share more as time gets closer and closer to the release. But there's some amazing things that are going to happen in Celebration. And one of the things I was going to get to do was sign a lot of books. Now, I don't think my autograph is worth anything. Let's be clear on that. But what is worth something to me is seeing people and shaking their hands and looking them in the eyes and talking to them about what they love about Star Wars, getting to share the excitement of this book with everybody, and just kind of being able to be a part of that world. I'm going to miss that. And honestly, if there would have been a celebration, it couldn't have been the way I just described, because of the pandemic, and there wouldn't have been, social distancing is, of course, very much a thing, and wearing masks. So it wouldn't have been the same experience. And it's okay. I'm very at peace with that. I'm very blessed that I got to write this book, and I'm not sad about it in the least. But I would be disingenuous if I didn't say I was missing getting to meet so many more people at the DK booth autographing these books.
Man, I have to say, first of all, what I have to say, Dan, is I was totally looking forward to that as well. Because I know how hard you've been working on this, and I know that has been a dream of yours. And I wanted to be I felt it was going to be sort of the fly on the wall in the room before you go to a signing or things like that. And so that's like my 4.5. But hey, I also don't want to stop you that, if you've got news you can share, we would be happy to be the first ones to hear it. So just don't hold back on our account. So let anything out that needs to come out now, if you can.
Well, you know how, like, if you blow up a balloon and you slowly release the air out, and you get a lot of spit
Make that
everywhere.
funny noise.
But it makes funny noise. And then what if it pops and explodes? And I don't want that to happen. Too many good things in the
No, we
fire.
don't need that.
No, but I appreciate it. It's very kind of you to say.
So can I go into my number 4 now, Dan? Because that goes along very well with some of the comments you just made with your point right there.
Yeah, please do.
So my number 4 was actually, now these are all very, up until my number 1, these all sound very stereotypical, but I have a reason for each one. But my number 4 is actually the community and being there with tens of thousands of fellow Star Wars fans. We have our online communities, in this day and age, everything's online. And that's fine, but there's something about being there. And like you said, Dan, something about just being able to shake someone's hand. I remember standing in line next to your guys' live podcast show, just talking to the fellow Coffee with Kenobi fans, where you're from, where'd you first see Star Wars? I've gone to another podcast event offsite on the night I arrived there, and I talked to just some random fan, flew in from Hawaii, who was a musician. I talked to the guy for 2 hours about The Last Jedi.
Wow.
It was the best conversation I had all week long. It was absolutely incredible. I got to meet, the biggest celebrity there, Dan Zayer, and, Tom Gross. I got to meet them. You guys have heard of them, right?
Yeah.
Here and there.
Yeah. That Tom, I'm a big fan, I tell you.
Stop it.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about their baseball teams, but that's a different discussion. But I got to meet so many amazing people within our community, and like I said, just being there in person, being able to shake someone's hand, again, talk about where they're from, how they got into Star Wars. It's something that can't be replaced. It's something you can't replicate. You can't replicate behind a keyboard, and that's something I'm going to miss this year, is having an opportunity to be there with you guys and all the friends I've made, through the Coffee with Kenobi community, and just all of us be there together in person and share that weekend together of celebrating Star Wars and enjoying one another's company.
Well, you know what? I've never said this in the history of Coffee with Kenobi before the show's over. We're not even halfway done, but Blake, you've already passed the audition. You are a natural podcaster, my friend. I love the way that you are explaining this, and you're so right on the money. It's those connections and people you never expect to meet, or the connections or the conversations you're going to have, are the things that kind of stick with you forever. I remember on the way home, Tom was reminiscing, and he was really beautifully emotional about conversations with Dennis Keithley and other people that he met that you just don't necessarily expect, and then you hit it off with them and you have a friend for life.
Absolutely. My father did do radio for 45 years, so it's in the blood. But,
nice.
I did not inherit the voice, as you can tell.
Well, you sound good to me. Oh my goodness!
If I have your approval, Tom, that's all that matters.
You've got it, man. I tell you, you know what? You're so right. And Dan, I totally forgotten about that moment on the train where it's sort of washed over me. It's that moment, it's like the day after Christmas, when you kind of have that realization that all the buildup has happened and how beautiful it was, but now it's over. And everyone's going home, and you're not going to see these people for a long time. Now, we get to keep in touch through our podcasts and our blogs and through social media and things like that, but it's not quite the same. And that's where I want to lead to what you were saying, Blake, about the people. And we talked about soon after the announcement that Celebration 21 wasn't going to happen. And I think I said somewhere in that show that I don't really want a virtual celebration. And Blake, you encapsulated my feelings about that. And now I'm really excited about the things that are coming that are virtual, because they're not calling it Celebration. It's not in an attempt to replicate Celebration. It's sort of its own thing, which I think is so cool. But Celebration is, you're right, Blake. It's all about the people in my eyes. And so great. I love that number 4. It is spot on, fantastic.
It absolutely is. So go ahead, yeah.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to add how Tom felt. Leaving it, that emotion you feel, after the fact. It's one of those things where, when you're in the moment, you're enjoying it. It's so fast paced. You're running the podcast stage. You're meeting this person, running the shop, But it's when you step back and it's over and you get that look, the bird's eye view of the event afterwards is when, like Tom, I had that moment coming back where I thought about, now this is my second celebration, but last year's celebration was my favorite. And just getting that look once you're out of the good chaos, having that moment, you're just like, this was absolutely unbelievable. I can't wait for the next one.
What was your first celebration?
My very first celebration was Orlando, 3 or 4 years ago when it happened.
2017.
Orlando.
2017.
Yes, that was my very first Star Wars celebration. Yes.
Wow. Well, the only bummer about that is our paths didn't cross sooner.
Absolutely. And the line getting in, that was a complete disaster too.
That was, yeah, I would say that one was my least favorite about celebrations, but it ended up okay. And like you said, Chicago was very, very special. So Tom, let's get your number 4.
My number 4 is now you take away meeting James Arnold Taylor and Kat Tabor, even take that away. The podcast stage is my number 4. Put them in there, and wow, I mean, it's a solid, big time number 4. That was such a blast. That's when I felt like I really was able to meet the fans of Coffee with Kenobi. Blake, you were there. So many people were there, and just getting to talk Star Wars and being able to look up. And I got into radio because someone told me one time, Tom, you got the face for radio. And so I was like, okay, I see what you're saying there.
Oh, boy.
And you're right. And so this is the first time we're doing the podcast and I'm looking at people and I was like, wow, this is so cool to be able to see everybody out there. And I will never forget that moment when I'm trying to remember what our topic was, something with the books, our top 5 books or something, I think. And I started with that opening of The Phantom Menace, and I gave my whole impression about that. And I'll never forget when I finished, everyone applauded. It was so much fun.
That's right.
It was so cool. And I was so moved by that, something that I would say would inspire that sort of a reaction. And so, but yeah, I mean, I remember staying there before the show and I was expecting Jat, but then I looked over his shoulder and I was like, boy, I know that person. But, remember she had a baseball cap on?
Yes, I do.
And so I couldn't really see her face very well. And I was like, I know who that is, but I can't place it. And I was like, whoa, that's Kat Tabor. It's like, oh my goodness, this is unbelievable. And just all of the build up to that. Remember when we walked up and down the people waiting in line and just said hi to everybody? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, this may come up later in the show.
Fun. Yeah. So anyway, number 4 is the podcast stage. Great time.
And I remember Kat Tabor legitimately said to me, Dan, you don't mind if I joined you? And I was like, are you kidding me? I actually said, you're royalty, of course. Yes. That's great.
Seeing those two, seeing her and James Arnold Taylor walk into your guys' podcast stage or your podcast show that was one of my highlights from Chicago, because I mean, obviously I didn't know they were going to be there, but to be that close and personal with those two, people we can say they're part of our Star Wars family now, and to see them on stage with you guys was quite a surprise, but it was a surprise everyone in there absolutely enjoyed.
I'm so glad. Yeah, that was an electric moment. James they're both wonderful. That was great. That was the electricity in that room was absolutely palpable. And like I said, it may come up later. Who knows?
Well, and so to finish my thought on that is to say, so what I was looking forward to and what I'm going to miss about the 21 was whatever surprise you were going to pull out of the hat this time, Dan. Because remember, you and Corey surprised me about 2 weeks, or maybe it was just the week before on the show. You said, Tom, here's who's going to be on the podcast stage. Yep. And he was my number 1. He was who I wanted to meet the most. And so I was just like, so for 2021, I was like, oh boy, who's Dan going to pull out this time? This is going to be great.
It was going to be great. I have faith. Things will work out, I think.
All right.
So number 4 for me was Disneyland Star Wars Night. At Celebration Orlando in 2017 that Blake just mentioned, they had Star Wars Galactic Nights. And it was a night where Hollywood Studios in Orlando, Florida was closed off. And it was for a private ticket Star Wars event. The park was very much reduced capacity. Everyone there was a massive Star Wars fan. They literally had a red carpet there. The rides had Star Wars music in them, except for the Toy Story one. They had different places where you can take really cool detailed pictures, like in the trash compactor, on the Emperor's throne, all this kind of stuff. They had Star Wars scavenger hunt, exclusive merchandise. It was just an amazing experience. The end of the night was Star Wars fireworks, and it was just, I've been to Disney World a lot. I proposed to my wife at the Polynesian Resort. I just had a lot of wonderful memories. It was one of the most wonderful Star Wars / Disney things that I've ever experienced. I walked around that night with Jeff McGee, Dennis Keithley, and Corey Clubb. And, then we ran to a number of other people, listeners, and other podcasters. And it was just a wonderful experience. And this time, we're going to get to do that at Galaxy's Edge at Disneyland. Oga's Cantina, Savvy's Workshop, Smuggler's Run. And it was all going to be there going, we're going to get so many pictures in front of the Falcon at night, which Galaxy's Edge is absolutely gorgeous at night. I mean, it's great during the day, but at night it's just a very, very special, different thing. Jim Hill was going to be there, Lou Mangello. We had a bunch of people that were going to go. It was going to be a party like nothing else Star Wars related, and I am sorely going to miss that. The good news is that our tickets were just postponed to another date. No one knows what that date is going to be, but when it does happen, it is going to be a very, very special night.
That is awesome.
My goodness. I'm just sitting back, closing my eyes and imagining that.
Oh,
wow.
So good. So good.
Unbelievable.
All right, Blake, give me your number 3.
All right. Now, Dan, I think this is going to come up for you. Tom's already mentioned it. I'm going to make number 3 the podcast stage. Now, it's already been touched on a lot, but I'm coming at it from perspective of not someone who's a host of a show, but as a fan. We were talking before the show about baseball, how we're all big baseball fans. For me, I watch the Marlins on TV down here in Florida all the time. It's great. But to actually go to the ballpark down in Miami and see them play is a totally different experience. As a fan of podcasts, Star Wars podcasts, to listen is a great thing. But to actually go there and just see these people who are in your ears nonstop at work all week, and see them in person and have that energy in that room with all the fans and you guys, it's something else for someone like me, again, who's just a fan, to be able to experience something like that. And the anticipation even going into that room, is something that I felt, it's a similar kind of feeling I had even going to the panels, like for The Mandalorian. Because you're going, like I said, we're all friends, we're all there to have a good time. So that energy was still there, the same energy I had even for those panels, going to those podcast stage. And that's something that you can only get if you're there in the ballpark with the podcasters, to be able to see them do their thing live.
Man, that I gotta tell you, that seriously means the world to me. I can't even tell you the joy in my heart, and I'm not worthy of it, but I certainly appreciate it. It's kind, it's humbling, and that's exactly the atmosphere that we hoped when we created this show back in 2013. Just a place where people can come together in a safe, non-judgmental place, share their passion and their thoughts and feelings on Star Wars, and make new friends that become like family. And I'm very grateful that energy is like that, because I certainly felt it as well. And you are certainly not just a fan. You are a super fan, dude.
Oh, I'm honored. Dan.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about those emotional moments, Blake, that's one. Thank you. I don't know what else to say, but that is absolutely awesome, and thank you for the comments. That's why I believe, Dan, that's why we do this.
That's right. Amen to that.
Awesome.
So,
wow.
What's your?
You guys know when you look out over your audience, that's what all those years of hard work have led up to. This family that the Coffee with Kenobi has created, and all the other podcasters that work very hard to do what they can for their audiences. It's hard work. I know it is, but you see the benefits from your hard work when you're there at that podcast stage, at Celebration in particular, when, again, going back to community, you can shake the hands and give the hugs and talk afterwards, no?
I love it. I love it. It's great. It's just absolutely
Awesome.
great. Yeah. Thank you for that. So, Tom, that's a hard one to follow, but what is your number 3?
I'm like, the rest of my list is really insignificant now. Oh, okay.
What have I done?
Okay. So number 3 is a thing I'm missing quite a bit, and this kind of wraps up several of the things we kind of talked about. But the thing I'm going to miss the most about in 2 weeks is basically the reveals. All of the reveals, everything from trailers to revealing new characters. I was just assuming that we were going to get some reveals of characters from the High Republic. Mandalorian reveals, maybe a hint of what's to come in years down the road. Everything from those, from the big stars and the big films and the big TV shows, clear down to the reveals of new games from Fantasy Flight or new books and comic books, those types of things. Just that kind of stuff that creates buzz throughout the entire show floor, or the entire just the entire convention itself. Just, did you hear? Did you hear? Did you see this? Did you get over to, all of that kind of, and then it adds that like excitement and urgency to get someplace, or to hear something, or to confirm something, and just, all of that reveal. And to try to be, I've never been the kind of person that I've got to be the first to know, but certainly it's fun to be in the know. And so that's what a convention does, and that's how I felt in Chicago, with all of the the Clone Wars and the Rise of Skywalker, and everything was just like this and this and this and this, and just that kind of thing. I'm going to miss that, but again, we just look down the road a little further. It's going to be there. There's no doubt. And we just get reveals in a different sort of way now. And it's not a different way. It's just not a celebration kind of way.
I love it. I love it. That is actually going to kind of tie into my next one. And Blake, was there anything you wanted to add to that?
No, Tom spoke perfectly on that. It's almost you leave there, it almost feels like an overload. Like you just went to an all-you-can-eat pizza buffet and you stuffed your face with all the stuffed crust pizza you could want, and you leave and you're just like, that was so good, but that was so much, but it feels so good. That's how I felt leaving Chicago. I mean, just all between the Mandalorian, Jedi Fallen Order, I mean, just everything that came out just with the last celebration. And I'm sure anyone who's been to, many previous celebrations can echo our comments as far as, getting that information there at that event and walking away just feeling that satisfaction that you were there to hear it all first, and you were there to experience it there with your fans,
And then that, even like those moments where you got to see Darth Maul in Clone Wars, and you got to reveal that Ray Parker is going to be doing the motion capture, and that thing there's so many hidden gems all over the place.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Okay, so my number 3, similar to that but a little bit different, is the euphoria of the show floor. Whether it's the first time you do it or the last day of the celebration, there's something about the magic of getting on that show floor when it opens. And not just for the exclusives and the collectibles, and not just for the giveaways, but just for that euphoria that here we are, we're at Celebration. Who knows I'm going to run into? Am I going to run into a Star Wars celebrity casually? Who am I going to see? What am I going to experience? Who am I going to talk to? What's it going to be like, waiting in line to get into those doors? The excitement of making that first panel and knowing what you're going to see, or hoping to find out that you're going to finally get to see that trailer. Or, gosh, are we going to get a poster giveaway when we leave this panel? I mean, there are just so many things that go through your mind. I want to go and get this author's. They're giving away like an exclusive book at Del Rey, or there's stickers over here, or just anything like that. It's just so exciting. No matter how many times I do it, that rush in the morning to, you wake up early, you're tired from the night before, you're getting your coffee, you get your food, you take the car, the taxi, or the Uber, or the train, or the whatever, or walk, and you just know when you get in that line and get into that show floor, you're with, thousands and thousands of rabid Star Wars fans who can't wait to experience not only the new stuff, but to reflect on the stuff, that we've loved over the past 43 years. And I just think it's amazing.
Absolutely. That feeling you get when you first walk onto the floor and you see, in the distance, the StarWars.com main stage, you see whatever starships that they've put on the floor. You get that moment, you have that sense of awe when you first walk onto the floor, and you're just like, here I am. I'm ready. Let's do this.
I really like your number 3 because to me, the show floor is all like, I close my eyes and I can hear it. I can still hear it today when something cool happens somewhere where you're not, and you can hear that crowd like noise rise way off in the distance. And it's that like everyone's craning their neck to see what's going on. Someone on the Star Wars stage, Star Wars show stage, who's up there, that kind of thing. Or, what star came out from the autographs out into the main group, just to say hi to fans. And I mean, it's just, the sounds of the show floor are what I enjoy and have great memory. And when I think about what 21 was going to bring, I was looking forward to the show floor in a new venue and to see what that looks like and to experience a new convention center and all of that. Chicago was my first time being to a celebration. So I was excited for the new venue and what the show floor would look like someplace different.
I love it, Magic Man. I just think we've each got 2 left, and who knows what honorable mentions are going to come up. But that is a good place to stop, and we'll go ahead and take a break. When we come back, Blake, Tom, and myself will share our top 2 things we're going to miss the most about Star Wars Celebration. This is Coffee with Kenobi.
This is Vanessa Marshall, and you're listening to Coffee with Kenobi.
MEI and Mouse Fan Travel is your one-stop shop for your vacation needs and your plans to Walt Disney World, Disneyland, or the cruise lines. Travel looks much different now than it did a couple of months ago, and with the opening of Walt Disney World and soon, hopefully, the opening of Disneyland, you need a place to go where you can trust, and they will help you figure out and navigate all the different circumstances and guidelines that Disney has put out for you. And I can say that we had our vacation modified, and as soon as dates were announced, MEI contacted me directly to help me reschedule, which is exactly what I was hoping to do. So if you are interested in rescheduling your vacation or want to try to plan a Walt Disney World, Disneyland vacation, or anywhere else you want to go on the planet, be sure to contact MEI and Mouse Fan Travel at www.coffeewithkenobi.com/mousefan-travel. Their signature service and expert advice will help you maximize your vacation time and dollar, and they will help you figure out all the different changes and modifications going on at the Disney theme parks. They are amazing, and I can tell you, honestly, from the bottom of my heart, the peace of mind that Becky Menken and the crew at MEI and Mouse Fan Travel have given me is invaluable. If you're interested at all, again, go to www.coffeewithkenobi.com/mousefan-travel. We are back, and we are on our top 2 things we're going to miss the most about Star Wars Celebration. Of course, was going to happen next week. And while it isn't, we're just going to continue to enjoy reminiscing and celebrating the things we love, about Star Wars Celebration. And I don't know about the 2 of you, although I feel like I can speak for both of you when I say this is bringing so many good feelings and so many smiles to my face, just hearing the 2 of you talk about how awesome Celebration is.
Absolutely. I'm right there with you.
Oh, indeed. I had a boss one time that you loved this phrase. It was nature abhors a vacuum. And I know that Celebration, would have been in a couple weeks. And my life, I filled things with that. I mean, Dan, we're playing D&D that weekend now. And so,
oh, that's right.
And so things have filled that. But this conversation is bringing all of that back. So Dan, I really appreciate it, and I hope everyone listening is able to reminisce and think about, what was gonna, what we were looking forward to. So this has been a lot of fun.
Good. I'm so glad. Well, the fun is still going strong. Blake, let's give us your number 2.
All right, number 2. Guys, I told you the force is strong with us today because this flows in pretty well with Dan's last one about the showroom floor. My number 2 is going to be the merchandise and spending all of my money. So the merchandise. Now, I have recently started collecting action figures, Star Wars action figures, 3 3/4 inch in the Black Series. So I love going through eBay and whatnot. But when you're there on the showroom floor at Star Wars Celebration and you're a collector, or even if you're not a collector, you just like to buy little Star Wars knickknacks, it's unlike any other con, because unlike other cons where you kind of have to search out for your Star Wars merchandise, at Star Wars Celebration, you can't walk anywhere and not see Star Wars merchandise. Your wallet will be bleeding when you leave there that weekend. It's a great feeling. It's an absolute great feeling. And my favorite purchase I bought was actually something very small. I'm one of those guys, I don't need to go out and spend a whole lot of money and make a big purchase. I like having the small little trinkets that I'll always remember that event from. So right now in my little Toyota Corolla, I have the Han Solo Millennial dice over my rear shield mirror. And that was my favorite purchase of Star Wars Chicago, was the little Han Solo dice. And just being able to pick up small little things like that every time you look at it, even a year later, you think about that event. I'm going to miss being able to go there and actually just walk around and physically look at all those things that I could bring home.
Oh, all the exclusives and,
Oh, yeah.
and like the old school Kenner stuff. I mean, Lou Mangello from WDW Radio, he found a holder for his Han Solo blaster that he used to play with as a kid, and he just has it in his office. And like, there's so many cool things there. I'm hoping we'll see soon, and maybe we will by the time this recording is out. I'm hoping to see like some of the exclusive merchandise that was going to be at Celebration. I'm hoping we can get our hands on it. And you're right, Blake, it's just not the same as seeing it on the show floor and then coming home and kind of enjoying your goodies and your treasures that you found. But that is definitely a highlight for me too.
Blake, was there anything you were looking for? Was there anything you're looking for that you thought maybe I'll find it at Celebration?
Yes, actually, I'm happy you asked that, Tom. My favorite action figures are the 3 3/4 inch, and I have an Admiral Akbar from 1983. I think that's my oldest one I have. I've been wanting to find some of the old creatures you'd see in the Mos Eisley Cantina. I know they released the Hammerhead, and I forget the name of the other one.
Boris Man, Greedo, and Snaggletooth.
Yes, those. I know if there was one place I could find those things, it would have been Star Wars Celebration 4. So I'll either wait 2 years, or maybe I'll just break down and buy them on eBay. But just the smaller retro action figures is what I was most looking forward to getting.
I love it.
Nice. All right.
Yeah, your number 2, Tom.
Man, I almost want to change my number 2 because of what Blake just said. I'm going to stick with it. Because my number 2 was one that I wasn't going to put on my list and I crossed out. But this one I put at number 2 because all of our other cons have been kind of taken away from us as well. And Gen Con I was planning on going to, and I always like watching the show floor videos and live stream of San Diego Comic-Con. And it's all for the same reason, not same reason, but the one thing that I'm missing from those, and as well as some local cons that I absolutely love, is the cosplay. And so, I mean, this kind of goes along with Dan's show floor as well, because that's where you see the cosplay. And I was really looking forward to Star Wars cosplay. We've got some new characters out there. We've got Cara Dune. We've got the Mandalorian. We have Baby Yoda. I was just really looking forward to seeing some of the what people came up with that. And some of my favorite cosplay are the mashups. And I wanted to see who is going to mash up a character with Baby Yoda, or anything like that. I mean, just all that kind of stuff. I'll never forget when, I don't remember what the group name is, but it's where they come walking in with the radio and rap blaring, and they come in and they're dancing all over the place. What do you know what the name of that group is?
Corey Club and the Two Live Crew. No, I don't.
Oh, yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's it. Anyway, I happened upon them as they were coming into the convention floor, and the other part that I really liked about cosplay wise was I saw more backdrops and like setting pieces than I've ever seen in my life. There was a Mos Eisley or a Tatooine setting, and so I just wanted to see all of that. And I know one year, Dan, didn't you work in the cantina, or not the cantina, but the
Star Wars
yeah,
show
it was the cantina.
Yeah, and Celebration Anaheim 2015.
Yeah. And so I was just really looking forward to seeing some of that awesome cosplay. Number one, because I just love to look at it and I think it's so cool. And number two, because I just appreciate the effort that goes into that. Then we were just having a conversation with our friend Troy today, and he's been working on a Mandalorian piece for, almost 8-9 months now. And he's trying to perfect the rifle. And I'm just listening to him talk about the rifle. I just can't wait to see it, because I know the love and the care and the effort and the artistry that goes into that I just, when I see those on the show floor, or I see them at a con, or I see them at somewhere local, the 501st, I love it. I love their dedication, and I love how happy it makes me feel. I was looking forward to that.
I remember how much you were really, really into the cosplay, and I thought that was really fun that you were, because you found some great stuff. You got some great pictures.
Yeah, I just love the way they add to the pictures and they add to the atmosphere. And I could never do it myself. And so I think that's part of my appreciation for it is I could never do that. I can't make a Mandalorian armor, and I can't make a Stormtrooper or a Jawa or any kind of thing like that to the degree that they do it. It is so, so awesome. So, that's something for me to look forward to in a couple years.
Blake, how do you feel about cosplay? Have you ever cosplayed before, or have you thought about doing it?
I have not cosplayed. I was not a child growing up who enjoyed playing dress up. I'm not saying that in a negative way. That was just never me as a kid growing up. But now as an adult, I'm more open to the idea of cosplaying myself, but only Star Wars. That is the one rule I've made for myself. I will never cosplay as anything else but a Star Wars character. I'd have to be hiding my face the entire time, but I am open to the idea. But like Tom said, I myself, I'm not very crafty. I'm not very good at, making things on my own. I have to buy my own Stormtrooper costume if that's ever what I wanted to be. So to kind of echo Tom's statement, to see the effort that a lot of these people put in. I remember I think it was Chicago. It could have been Orlando too. I can't quite remember what. It was a mother, a father, and their 2 young children. They all were, I think they were Mandalorians, but they were fully customized. You can tell that the family did together as a family project. And it does add to the atmosphere. I mean, not everything has to be screen accurate. To see the effort and the creativity that a lot of these fans have with their cosplay is really mind-blowing. And those are some of the best pictures, too, you can get when you go to a con, is these cosplayers, especially these very unique ones that you're not going to see anywhere else.
Yeah, in The Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown, where Charlie Brown makes that ghost and he ends up cutting like 1 million holes in the ghost sheet. That would be what my Stormtrooper would probably look like.
He says, I had a little trouble with the scissors.
Yeah, I knew you would start laughing. I think it's super cool. I mean, the only thing that would stop me from doing it, because of course I have Stormtrooper armor, I just haven't finished building it yet. The only thing that would stop me from doing it is when I know eventually at some point I'd have to go to the bathroom. And I would what am I going to do now? I'll be in there for like an hour trying to figure out how to make that happen. So I don't know. Maybe someday I'll try to do it.
Extra level of appreciation. Never thought of that.
Yeah. You have to be. Come on, Tom. Yeah. These are the kind of things that I think about. Oh boy. Okay. So my number 2 is sort of a tie. And it's a tie between the podcast stage and hanging out with Tom and Corey. And it means even more now than it ever has. So the podcast stage, you both have brought up a lot of wonderful things and just made this wonderful smile on my face just thinking about it. This one in particular was very special, the last one, Celebration Chicago, because I always like to get there early and just kind of get things set up and make sure the sound is good. And, you just kind of go through the checklist that you need to do. And we've been promoting it pretty heavily, and Corey made this great logo about James Arnold Taylor being there. But we went down that hallway, and people may remember this, but I went a couple weeks before to C2E2 in Chicago just so I could kind of scout out everything, find the podcast stage, and all that good stuff.
And thanks to those videos you posted, I actually found the podcast stage.
I'm glad.
Nice.
Well, thank goodness, because we got to meet, so that was definitely worth it. Seriously. And so then, like, when we got there were all these people against the wall. And I don't know if it was Corey or Tom or who said it, but somebody said, hey, they're all waiting for you guys. And I just felt like this. There's just certain times in my life where just something just sort of takes over in my brain. I'm like, I got to meet everybody. So like you had mentioned, Tom, I made sure to shake everybody's hand, talk to everybody, thank them for coming, because I mean it from the bottom of my heart, and I feel so passionately and so strongly about helping to build up this community in any way that I can, and just the fact that people would take time out of their schedule to come listen to us was just a wonderful thing. And then Corey, over the years, at first he was a little more introverted, but he's slowly been coming out of his shell, and I'm just so proud of him and everything that he's done for Coffee with Kenobi, and just professionally and everything like that. And knowing that we're going to get to go on the stage, and the night before, and I think we talked about this on the show or maybe on Pour Over, but I'm sort of at a point now where I don't really write too many questions or anything. I just sort of talk. And I had said that to Corey and Tom, and they both looked at me like, what you talking about, Willis? They looked petrified. What do you mean you're just going to wing it? So we just we did come up with a few things, and we wrote some stuff down. So I think that worked well for everybody. And that's important too. Then we walked in there, and I knew it was Tom's first celebration on the podcast stage, but I never doubted for a second. Tom is such a pro. He's one of the best presenters I've ever seen. And I have a picture. I have a bunch of pictures from there. Alex Procasio, famously took a selfie when he came on the stage, but he just kind of did it without it. I'm like, dude, you can tell us. We'll look. And I'll never forget that. It was so fun and charming. But there's a look on your face, Tom, where like your head is kind of popped up, and you've got this big smile. You almost look like a whack-a-mole, and I mean that in the best sense of the word. And it was just so great. And then, like we said, we're Coffee with Kenobi, and everyone cheered, and James goes, hello there, and let's get out of the way. Hello there. And we have a video of it on our YouTube page if you want to see it. Kat Tabor was there. And I had a really good friend, Greg Berkey, and his son Nick were in the audience, and I hadn't seen him in years and years. My oldest son Peyton was there. It was just so special to me. And I remember your reaction, the reaction that you gave, like you said, to when you talked about the Phantom Menace novel and how you got that applause. And I just remember being so happy and proud of you. And not proud, that's probably not the best word because I'm not your dad or anything, but just so excited for you, because it was such a wonderful moment, so well-deserved. And hearing your guys' insights and just knowing how the three of us vibe. And anyone who's listened to CWK Prover knows what kind of chemistry the three of us have. And it's just very, very special to me. It's just a definite highlight. I was very blessed to be on a number of panels over that weekend, but that one just really stands out to me. But it's a tie because you're hanging out with Tom and Corey, and the last one was a little more tricky because I was pulled in a lot of different directions and had to cover a lot of stuff and this and that. But it was great whenever we could reconvene because we could say, oh, what'd you do? What'd you do? Who'd you talk to? What'd you see? Blah, blah, blah. And we'd share each other pictures, and we would record on the show floor. And then we would go back to the hotel, and we'd be up for hours laughing so hard, practically peeing our pants, just being so slap happy and silly. Just the absolute best time. And now it's even going to be more special for the next one because, Corey said it on Pour Over, and he said it on social media and things like that, so I'm not giving away any secrets. But Corey's moving. Right now, he's just a few minutes from me and has been as long as I've known him. But he's going to move to Tennessee, so he's not going to be, a 5-minute car ride away. But, he'll still be on the Pour Over, and we'll still have him on Coffee with Kenobi occasionally. So going to Celebration is going to be extra special for Tom and I because we won't get to see Corey as much as we're used to. And so that's going to be very important and very special to me.
Very cool. Yeah. Jeez. Just to reminisce about that to me, that's what Celebration kind of built up to. There's of all the great things that Celebration is, that the podcast stage is what I was looking forward to the most. I mean, if it weren't, Dan, if it weren't for you and Coffee with Kenobi, I don't think I had ever made it to Celebration, even in Chicago. But, and so, the show is what I was looking forward to the most in Chicago. Now, looking forward to, 2021, that wasn't necessarily the most. I mean, it definitely would have been a highlight, but in Chicago, that was it. Once that happened, it was kind of like, oh, now I can take a big breath and like really enjoy everything. So that was great.
I remember talk of a push-up contest. Who won that?
Oh man, I crushed them.
I don't want to, I don't want to put anyone to shame.
I'm not opening old wounds, am I?
No, it doesn't bother me. I won.
Wait a minute. I do not believe that was a certain.
Well, we can do it tomorrow if you want.
I think it got about as far as we warmed up.
Yeah, that wasn't that on. I think we put something on our CWK lens thing, and we were just basically laughing so hard.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that was great.
I mean, when you want to talk about, things like that, we should talk about who presses the shirts the best. I mean, really, when it comes down to like things that are important.
That's right. There's no doubt about that. Yeah,
oh, goodness.
Right. Very good. I love it. All right, Blake, we're down to your number one, man. I can't wait to hear what you have to say.
Number one is the beer carts. No, I'm just kidding. That's not my number one. That's not my number one. It didn't even make top 10. Although they did have some good beer there. No, my number one was this. Like I said at the beginning, the previous four were no specific order. This really is my number one. My number one this was going to be my wife's very first Star Wars celebration. Now, we have been to MegaCon together down here in Orlando. We've done that since she got married last year, and before that, she's done Tampa Bay Comic-Con. But she's not a crazy Star Wars fanatic like her husband is. She does like it, but this was going to be her first experience into my world, kind of. And I was going to be able to go there and show her in person what my fandom looks like at that level. And it's kind of like, Dan, I know you're a big Disney guy like I am, and it's kind of like how you'll go to Disney World 100 times, and as a Disney fan, you always love it. But there's that time where I don't have kids, but I know from people who have kids, they take their child to Disney for the first time, and they see their kid meeting Mickey Mouse, or maybe their parents who had never been, always wondered why they had that crazy obsession with going to the parks, and they go and they see the fireworks and the rides, and then they get it. They realize it, and they have such a good time. That was kind of going to be what Celebration was going to be for me and my wife. We've been married for a year as of last month, and this was going to be our big trip, and Star Wars Celebration was going to be a huge part of it, obviously. And to be able to, introduce her to you guys and take her to these panels and show her the show floor and see the enjoyment she'll get out of all the things we as a group have talked about tonight was going to mean a lot to me. But I'm saying this as if it'll never happen. We know that this is still going to happen in 2 years, and we are going. We got our tickets still. We're rolling them over, so I just have to be patient and wait. But yeah, that was my number one. It was going to be, this time for me and my wife to have that moment together, for her to experience her very first celebration. But like I said, it's only 2 years off. We're still going to be there, and I'm really looking forward to it.
I think that is so beautiful, and I totally like, even like I said a little bit ago at the podcast stage, seeing my oldest out there. Now, you certainly heard plenty and seen plenty and helped me over the years with video and things like that because he's so talented. But to see him out there, and I just thought, this is so special. And whenever I get to bring Deanna to something, I'm like, I want her to meet these people that I talk about, that are my friends, that I commune with online and on social media and through the show and different things like that. And, the next celebration, since it's 2 years away, I'm hoping to be able to bring Mason and Deanna and maybe Blake, we can introduce our wives to each other. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that I think is the best. It's absolutely the best. What a great number one.
That is a great one. And, there's a Coffee with Kenobi family and there's a Star Wars family. But what you're talking about is family. That's sharing what you love. That is so cool. That is so cool.
What a great one.
Whew.
Right. Well, I'm glad Tom has to follow that right away instead of me. That's good.
Yeah. Well, this. It seems like it's almost cliche to put this at number one, but it is true that what fills my cup are the people that I get to meet. I'm a social animal. I love meeting people. I love talking to strangers. I was looking forward to all of that and having that sort of Star Wars cup filled up face to face. You know, it's awesome being on the show. It's awesome talking about Star Wars here in this venue on Pour Over, on social media, sharing it there. All of those are wonderful channels, but to be able to stand face to face with thousands of Star Wars fans. And Blake, you mentioned that when you got there, you had a 2-hour conversation with somebody that you never met before. Let me tell you, when I stand in line at I don't know, wherever, you name it, if I'm standing in line, generally my nose is to the ground. My focus is on whoever I'm there with, whether it's my daughters or my wife or whatever. But when I was at Celebration, I was talking to people in line, and you get the cattle lines where they zigzag back and forth, and you start a conversation with somebody next to you, and then the line moves, and then you hope that you get lined back up with them again so that you can continue the conversation. But then every time you pass them, you're like, hey, what's up? And you just have this camaraderie with all the people and standing in line. And so I don't know. I was just kind of looking forward to that. It's not kind of. It's my number one. I was really looking forward to that. Celebration is where, Dan, you introduced me to Clayton Sandell, and how cool it was just to hang out with him as a Star Wars fan.
Yeah.
And the other people that we got to meet. I got to hang out with David Nicely and his daughters, and that's where I played games at the Fantasy Flight booth, and got to get acquainted with them and just be face to face with people, and there's just something special about being face to face. And I remember how much conversation we had about how my crowd anxiety, and I was really nervous about my crowd anxiety.
Yeah.
And you and Corey kept saying, Tom, it's going to be Star Wars people. It's all Star Wars. It's not like going to a Comic-Con where it's anime and it's Marvel and it's DC and Image and random people and all this. It's Star Wars. I don't know that I had necessarily any anxiety about being there, because no matter where I was, it was like I was with a potential friend. And I remember standing in one of those huge groups down those huge hallways before the show floor opened. I mean, there are thousands of people in this hallway, and some guys were next to me, kind of huddled, and I noticed they're all on their phones, and I look over one of their shoulders, just trying to not be nosy. I was like, what are they so into? And they're doing Star Wars, the Star Wars Galaxy mobile game, and I was like, oh, you guys play that game? And they're like, yeah, did you play? And I was like, oh yeah. And so we just started talking, and we shared names on the game and everything. And it was like, nowhere else in the world would I be able to do that. And so, as cliche as it is to say, my number one is the people. It truly and honestly, it's the people that I was really looking forward to seeing in 2021. But hey, like we've said all through this conversation, I just have to put it off a year or so, and we'll get there. And it's going to be wonderful, and it's going to be great, and it's going to be bigger than ever, because boy, we have been pining for this now for so long.
I would almost be disappointed if that wasn't both of your guys' number ones, because again, we keep coming back to it, but it's that community. It's the power of those connections and those memories, and it's just such a unique Star Wars Celebration is unlike anything else. I've been very fortunate to go to D23, San Diego Comic-Con, lots of great stuff over the years, but there's nothing that matches Star Wars Celebration for all the things that you mentioned, and it ties very much into my number one. My number one is the podcast meetup. So, the wonderful thing, especially about it, seems like it's all coming back to Star Wars Celebration Chicago, but that's the most recent one. But Star Wars Celebration Chicago, we had our podcast meetup, and we promoted it heavily, and we tried to get as many other podcasts involved as possible, and I think it worked out fairly well, really. And there was about 3.5 hours where you couldn't take a step without meeting somebody and saying hello or talking to them, picking their brains about stuff, seeing what they thought about different Star Wars things, about just podcasting in general, getting pictures, sharing some laughs, food, drinks, all kinds of stuff. It was just, I think we were a little late getting there. I don't really remember why, but it's kind of crazy getting around Chicago, of course. And just seeing people, and Dennis was there, and all their podcasts were there, and Clayton, of course, was there. Leland Chi was there. There were just so many people there, and just getting introduced Tom to a lot of these people he's gotten to talk to as the CWK newsman, and people being like, "Hey, Corey, Dan, good to see you," and just sharing that moment. It's almost like Star Wars Thanksgiving. Really, that might be the best way to describe it. And you don't even mind. Usually, I'm very much a creature of habit. I like to go to bed at a certain time, wake up a certain time. But one of those nights, I just didn't care. I just wanted to see everybody. Lisa Dollard, of course, our CWK media specialist, is such a incredibly invaluable treasure to me and Coffee with Kenobi. She got to meet people too, and not everybody is super outgoing. Some people just kind of like to kind of chill and just say hello from afar. But no matter where you're at, everyone was so welcoming and so happy to just chat and visit and share the love of Star Wars. And it's just something that I have such many wonderful memories of. And I that might be the main thing I was almost the most sad about, which is why it's my number one that we don't get to do it. But as you both keep saying, it just makes the anticipation and the joy and the enthusiasm that much greater for the next time we get to actually do it.
Absolutely. Just 2 years away.
Oh, yes. I was just thinking about that meetup, and it took me about the full 3 hours to get from one end of the bar to the other end of the bar. And we ended up talking to Dennis and
Jay
Krebs. and that's where the night ended. But it took me almost that entire time. And Amy Ratcliffe was there.
Oh yeah. Everybody.
And just, oh my goodness, that was so great. And yeah, mine was so general that it encompasses that. That was so much fun. And remember how crummy I was feeling before we went? I think that's probably why we were late, was because I wasn't feeling super hot before we went. And it had nothing to do with illness. I was just exhausted.
Sure.
And that just boosted me up when we walked into that place. And I think LJ Souter is one of the first that we encountered walking in there. And it just lifted me up. It was so great.
Yeah, meeting him was wonderful, and just everything about it was. It fills me up with an adrenaline and excitement that I just can't even describe.
I was going to say, I had heard other podcasters on their podcast talk about that meetup and mentioning you guys. Believe it or not.
Oh wow!
So that must have been quite a night. I was there in spirit. I could not make it.
Yes, well, you got to go to the next one.
I will be there, absolutely. But yeah, that from what I had heard, not only from you guys, but from other podcasters, that sounded like quite a night.
Listening to Coffee with Kenobi, you are with Dan Z, the podcast you're looking for. This is.
That's going to do it for this week's show. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to have a cup of coffee with me, and for helping to spread the word about our Star Wars family we've got here at Coffee with Kenobi. Be sure to tune in Monday nights at 8 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live at www.coffeewithkenobi.com/live or www.facebook.com/coffeewithkenobi and have a cup of coffee, tea, or any beverage of your choosing with me as we continue the conversation. To join us in the CWK Cafe, which is our Facebook group, and share your Star Wars thoughts, comments, reviews, and opinions in a family-friendly, spoiler-free place that is also drama-free, go to www.coffeewithkenobi.com/community and be part of the conversation, talk about this week's show, or just talk about some Star Wars. It is a lot of fun, and you'll make some new friends as well as catch up with longtime friends along the way. I also want to thank all of the new and longtime members of the CWK Alliance and let you know how much I appreciate your help and encouragement. A big thank you to our CWK Alliance members, Mary Purdue, Terrence King, Smooth Rivera, Dan Capurso, Aaron, Jim Tallman, J.C. Poe, Ed Kimoto, Greg McLaughlin, Robert Avila, Dustin Mills, Yancey Evans, Chelsea Sansbury, Connie Shee, Tyler Pompa, Hannah, Alex Procasio, Ian Thompson, David Nicely, Simbot Deftradarian, Christine Turk, Kurt McKellen, Ross Halibin, Dan Ream, Colby Mead, Alexander Moylan, Frank Mulder, Blake Weaver, Jim Capron, Chris Metz, LJ Souter, Aaron Harris, Chris Skavarka, Jeff Ellis, Daz Davies, Susan Gray, Thea Selby, Christian Dale, Brian McKinney, Jason Hall, Jared Cantor, Eric Struthers, Mark Suter, Angela Sauce, and Dennis Keithley. If you want to join the CWK Alliance, be sure to go to www.coffeewithkenobi.com/CWK Alliance and sign up today. Not only will you help out Coffee with Kenobi, but you also get access to CWK Pour-Over, the exclusive weekly podcast not heard anywhere else. It's a great way to support and help out the show, and 10% of your monthly contributions go directly to the St. Jude Children's Hospital to support the incredibly important work they are doing to help these brave children and their families. Plus, contributors at the CWK All-Star level can watch a video podcast of CWK Pour-Over hosted by me, Tom Gross, and Corey Clubb. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions. In addition to being part of the community on Facebook, please don't forget to visit our website at www.coffeewithkenobi.com for Star Wars news, announcements, reviews, live video, and so much more. If you have a question for me or just want to share your thoughts on the air, please feel free to reach out to me at danz@coffeewithkenobi.com, and I'll share them on the show. You can also connect with me on Twitter at Mr. Zer, MRZEHR. There are also a lot of ways to connect with me and Coffee with Kenobi on social media. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Give us a like on Facebook at facebook.com/coffeewithkenobi, and check us out on Pinterest. You can find me twice a month on the podcast Looking at Lucasfilm, part of the Jim Hill Media Podcast Network, and you can find my writing on CWK's website, as well as StarWars.com, where I'm an official blogger there, as well as on IGN, where I contribute articles on Star Wars, as well as other popular culture topics. And if you're considering starting a podcast or a blog, let me know how I can help you get started and help you make your creative vision a reality. Be sure to check out danzmedia.com where we can get the process started. I'm also available to come to your school, conference, business, or organization to talk about how to tap into your strengths and help you bring out your very best. You can take that first step into a larger world. Thanks as always to our CWK sponsors, especially MEI and Mouse Fan Travel, our travel partner and your one-stop shop for all things Walt Disney World, Disneyland, the Disney Cruise Lines, or anywhere on the planet. Please go to www.coffeewithkenobi.com/mousefantravel to book your magical vacation and help support Coffee with Kenobi in the process. And don't forget to pre-order my brand new book that I wrote alongside Pablo Hidalgo and Cole Horton, the Star Wars book published by DK. Be sure to pre-order your copy of the Star Wars book today. I can't wait to share it with each and every one of you. If you like the show, please tweet out that you're listening, share it on Facebook, or invite your friends and family to tune in and share a cup of coffee with us. And if the Force is especially with you, please take a couple of minutes to rate and review the show on iTunes or Google Podcasts. Every review makes a huge difference and helps to spread the word. Go to iTunes and search Coffee with Kenobi and you'll see the show there. My circle of friends has grown so much because of this podcast and each and every one of you, and it means so much to me that we have such a wonderful Star Wars community. Thank you all so much for all you do. It was great. It's also been quite a night sharing this incredible conversation with the two of you. Blake, I can't thank you enough for coming on Coffee with Kenobi. You're welcome to share the mic with us anytime. Please, please, please let everybody know where they can continue the conversation with you on social media.
Well, I'm on the Coffee with Community Facebook page pretty regularly on Facebook there. That's probably, if you ever want to message me, the easiest place to find me.
CWK Cafe, awesome. Well, again, thanks for so much for being on, dude.
Guys, this has been so much fun. Like I said, the Force were strong with us tonight. We had emotional talk. We laughed. We talked about baseball. It was great. Yeah, I had a blast tonight, guys. I cannot wait for the next time we all can get together online here and talk the wars together.
Absolutely. And Tom, please let everybody know where they can continue the conversation with you.
Oh, absolutely. On Twitter is probably the best place. That is at Draftline, DRAFTLINE. And yeah, you find me in the CWK Cafe as well from time to time. And hey, I'm hoping, Dan, that this little re-interview brings me back on to Coffee with Kenobi a little bit more now that school and we got a schedule back going. So maybe you catch me here. Oh, and always on the pour over, right?
That's right. And of course, it is always awesome to see and chat with you on Coffee with Kenobi. And of course, I have the good fortune of getting to work with you every day. So that's pretty great too.
Absolutely.
An awesome conversation with two awesome friends of mine. Thank you so much again for joining us on Coffee with Kenobi this week. If you want to find another way to support the CWK Alliance, don't forget that we have our fundraiser going where you can go to our Twitter page or our website, www.coffeewithkenobi.com, and find our custom link store where we are selling the CWK Alliance Black Trucker hat. I think we have just met our quota for the minimum we need to print, but there's still room until I think until September 10th to place an order if you're interested at all in getting a CWK Alliance Black Trucker hat. It is great. Look at the pinned tweet on Coffee with Kenobi Twitter account or the top of our website and you will see it. Be sure to grab one if you're at all interested, because normally, as I said last week, we print these sort of things on TeePublic, but TeePublic doesn't have hats. Custom Ink does, and they are awesome. And by the way, you've probably heard that Force Fest is going on the weekend of Star Wars Celebration. Since we're not having Celebration, we're still going to have a fun way with a lot of members of our Star Wars community coming together to celebrate the love of Star Wars with you. And I will be hosting a panel, Star Wars, A Literary Language, as part of the Force Fest saga on Sunday, August 30th from 12:30 to 1:30 Pacific Time. Celebrate the saga while raising money for Make-A-Wish. Be sure to go to www.forcefest.com for more information and details and to see all these amazing panels that are going to be a part of this important experience.
This podcast is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company or Lucasfilm Limited. It is intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com. Star Wars, all names, sounds, and any other Star Wars related items are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of Disney and their respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of Coffee with Kenobi unless otherwise indicated.
This is the podcast you're looking for.
There's no one here. Move along. Move along.